Okay. All right, so as mentioned, my name's Robin. This is your enrollment key. I have sent out an email already to you, so you should have got that. So with the new TAFE Learn site, you'll see that sometimes you can already log in and it'll take you to a dashboard. Has that happened to anybody? Where you can actually just go straight into the course? Or, yeah, so then you go to dashboard, and then from dashboard it says, so it says course dashboard, and then from there it says enroll me, and you put your enrollment key in. Okay. If anybody has a problem with that, then you can always email me, and I can always just take a snapshot of that for you and send that through to you. Okay. Because I know previously in my other class they were having issues with the enrollment key. So I don't think you would have a problem, but if that is the case, so be it. All right, so external students, this is not your enrollment key. This is only for face-to-face, which I am recording right now. So that's why I'm just telling everyone that we are recording. Okay, so we're going to just discuss a bit about WHS and student services and counselling. So with regards to that, we are just going to, and I know some of us, this has been a bit of a repeat, but it's part of legislation, is that if you are new to TAFE and you're needing to know where your assembly point is in evacuation. Now, for students that were here last semester or even at the end of 2018, there was an incident where the alarm did go off, and you'll actually hear the lady come on speaker, and she'll actually say to you that you need to leave the premises, okay? And it's a piercing alarm. It's a terrible sound, so you will know. So it goes whoop, whoop, and then so it's quite loud, and she'll tell you to go. Now, we are in upper level, so basically from here we would need to go down the stairs, which is closest to us. Do not take the lifts, because the lifts will not operate. And then from there you would be able to get down. So here we are here. You'd walk to the to where the wooden stairs are, carry on walking. If you know where Fun Coffee is in terms of at the top there, you'll be able to know then you could walk between here. There's a whole lot of cars parked here, and of course you normally park over there. Then you'd walk to this Siemens building, and this is your evacuation point or assembly point here. So it is a bit long-winded, I know. The other one is to come through the doors just down here. If those are locked, then of course you'll have to go the other direction. But these doors here would be also your closest to evacuate, and that means going around this building, heading to the east, and coming round over here to where you need to meet with assembly. Okay. All right. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. Have you been told about the phones? In terms of if you need to be able to, if someone's hurt themselves, or if there's an emergency, or even if for yourself, if you need to get hold of IT or something, there's a white phone, not the red phone. Do not touch the red phone, because that's for if there's a fire, and that would be calling then your ambulance, not ambulance, it will be calling the fire brigade. And the last time I heard, it cost something like $7,000 to call out the fire brigade. All right, so we do not want that unless there is actually a physical fire that you see, then please do use that. But my first point of call would be to actually contact student services, and there's a phone on this level. Now, you walked right past it. It's actually just outside where the backflow room is. So as you came through those double doors, the furthest classroom, I think it's 3.2.1. I think it's that classroom there. There's a white phone there, and there is 3 buttons there. You can press 1 or 2. 3 is, I'm not too sure what 3 was for, but oh, that's ICT. So if you're needing a problem with your computer or something, try not to use that. Rather first speak to student services. Okay. So that's to operate, and that is a white phone. Okay, not the red phone. Okay, perfect. All right. Any questions on that so far? You okay with that? All right, good. Okay. So let's just close that. All these windows that are open, my word. Okay, let's go back to where my Firefox was. Consult with clients. All right. So once you've logged in, I'm just going to change my settings here because I'm just admin at the moment. So I'm going to just switch my role to become you, which is student. Okay. So once you've enrolled, or once you've got your enrollment key and coming to the subject, then you'll see that for the students that are familiar with the site from last semester, there's no grid system anymore. It's just topics on the site. So those are your headings there. Okay. So I'm just going to give you an indication how to navigate what we're going to be talking about, and then I'll go into further information of what the unit is about. All right. So with that, it would be to your advantage if you want to bring your laptop, so you could also follow the course. A lot of people also started making notes on their laptop with regards to what I was talking about, so they could cross-reference between what I was presenting as well as questions being asked. As I said, that's why we're recording, so that it can help you, because this is vital in terms of maybe a student asking a vital question and me answering, whereas the external students won't have that access to that information. So with that then, hence why we're recording. So also vital to bring your laptop and follow, because I really apologize. I wish I could have blinds here, and one of the students mentioned that the last time. But because of the amount of light coming in here, there sometimes is a reflection. So it's good that you try and sit as close to the front as possible, okay? So with regards to recording that or following on your laptop, that does help a bit with actually seeing the information, okay? All right, so we're going to go into the welcome page, all right? Did I just do like a double click or something? Okay, so this is your welcome page here. This is telling you what the unit is about. So what we are going to be talking about is consult with clients. This is usually seen as a stage 1 in terms of a project. It's normally the initial chat that you would actually have with a client or a client having with you, before you learning everything else in part of your course, with assisting you to deliver in the end a project. Okay. So with this, we're going to look at it says the unit. I'm just going to read that for you. The unit of competency specifies the outcomes required to consult with clients to identify and clarify parameters such as their vision, service level requirements, preferences, budget for new building design projects, covered by the National Construction Code. So I'll explain a bit about that if you haven't come across it yet, the NCC, or known as the Building Code of Australia. So that was previously, except for construction type A buildings. Okay, so I'll get into that a little bit later in terms of what your project information is about, but we don't do commercial buildings for this specific unit. You'll be covering that in other units, but for consult with clients, we're looking at more of a residential zone, if I can clarify that. The building that we're going to be looking at is actually kind of in between. It's a hotel / pub. So some people can sometimes see that as a commercial environment, but it's zoned as a residential. Okay. Right. So with that, we'll be looking at budgets, we'll be looking at materials, we'll be looking at a whole lot of stuff to actually influence what the exact brief is going to be about. And that's clarifying that everyone is on the same page from the start. Because like previously, as people working in industry, as you know, as well as myself, we do not want incorrect information to creep up on us, especially when the initial conversation starts and you want to get all the information correct. So that follows right through to your end of your project, because it's very clever how clients can easily change that information as you're going along and say, oh, but I thought you were going to mention doing this part of the building, and next minute you don't have the budget for it. Okay, so we're trying to prevent that from happening. All right. On the welcome page, it talks about your assessments. All in all, you're going to have about 5 assessments. Okay, so we've got assessment 1A and 1B. We've got assessment 2, assessment 3, and assessment 4. Now, they all lead from one to the other. So it's not like a jump around where you can decide which one you're wanting to use or to complete. You have to be able to understand task 1A to be able to complete task 1B, and then go forth in terms of going to complete task 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So in a nutshell, I'll be explaining that. I'll pull up the program shortly, and we'll be having a look at that. All right. Let's look at that actually now. So we're in the second topic there, which is I'll get to the e-learning for the students with the assessments. So over here, you can actually see this is what you are getting assessed against, is the unit descriptor, and this is what the course is actually addressing. So if you're wanting to know about that, that's all according to Australian government, and there it is there. So that's what your course is there. Consult with clients to produce approved small-scale building project design briefs. And this is what you have to meet. So all these elements is what your tasks are associated with. So you'll see that I will stress a lot with regards to addressing all the requirements specifically in the assessment. If you do not get those requirements, then you'll have to resubmit, or if you do not supply that, then you're going to have to repeat that. All right. So it's very important that you do your assignments according to what is asked of you. All right. All right, so here's the learning program. Now, this is going to be quite a fast-paced unit. In industry, this usually just takes normally about a week to 2 weeks in terms of this first stage being completed. So we are dragging it out a bit in terms of covering it for a semester. So we've actually brought it within the first term. So it's going to be, not first term, sorry. Yes, for the people that are starting for the first time, it is your first term. But we refer it to term 3 at the moment. So your first assessment is actually due next week. Okay. So I will be discussing that with you now in class today. And then, so task 1A is all about analyzing the site. So I'm going to start with looking at the site. All right. I see a few faces that were here last term. So with that, it will come a bit more, what can I say? Well, it will become familiar with you. And we'll be looking at that assignment there with looking at all the information regarding that site. So researching that site before we actually jump into then meeting with the client. And that is with regards to week 4 and 5. So it's actually chatting to an actual client. There's someone that's going to act as the client or the owner of the actual building. And from there, They are going to assist you with answering your questions. So you're going to be asking them a whole lot of questions, okay? And that's what happens in real life. So basically, I'll just then give you a scenario when we go and show you what the Cumberland Hotel is all about. So that's actually your project. All right, so then, so that's week 3 and 4. So 4 and 5. That's one done there. Then there is a attendance day. All right, for you, this doesn't apply, but there's going to be excellent guest speakers. You might have classes on those days. I would suggest you come, and it actually would be beneficial because they're going to be discussing such as looking at the new council changes, etc. They're going to get a guest speaker in. There's also going to be lunch supplied for you. So that's the 2nd of September. It's a Monday, and it's a really good, informative day for you to attend. All right. No. So if you've got other classes on that day, Doug, then you'll be attending those as things. But if you don't, then there's going to be a slot where they're going to have lecturers or guest speakers come in, which is quite vital. And that's around lunchtime. So from about, I think it's going to be 12 o'clock to about 1:30. Yeah, you could if you wanted to, yeah. But I found it very, very exciting and very encouraging. And my knowledge actually was better in terms of understanding what was happening in industry. So it could be anything from sustainability, which you cover in this unit, to council changes or how to access information from the council or who to address. So these are all things that are actually going to help you with all your other units in this course. So just write that down as the 2nd of September. And that's a Monday, all right? So it's it's the Building Designers Association, and we will be able to send out, you'll be getting some information on that closer to that time. So that's week 6. In week 6, on the Wednesday, your due date for task, oh, did I jump task 2? Yeah, task 2 is then due on that week 6. Now that's quite a nice task. I find that I'm very passionate about sustainable design. So this is all to do with sustainability for your clients and getting a grips to understanding a bit of sustainability. So there's a few questions on that that will assist you with some information, and we will cover that as the lectures go on. All right. So I won't leave you in the lurch. We will work with each other to help you with this. All right. All right. So when it comes to over here, you'll actually see there's a lecture topic. So that's what I'll be covering to help you. As you see further up here, there will be a topic that will help you with understanding sustainability. All right. Then the real crux of the course comes out in assessment 3, where we will actually be doing looking at actually finalizing that design brief. So saying to the clients, okay, this is what we propose for you. We want you to agree to this. They might come back and say, we're not happy maybe with some fees or something. Then you tweak it a bit, and that will be your assignment 4. So 3 and 4 is very similar, the assessments. A lot of students had a bit of difficulty with understanding that, but I will assist you to show you where some changes are, and you shouldn't be stressing out about that, because that's what happens in industry. Often clients will say, yes, we're happy to proceed and everything, but could we maybe look at the terms and conditions with payment? We can't pay that 50%. Could we maybe break it down to 25% and then part payment after that? So then you tweak it again, your final brief, to make sure that changes in that brief, so that when you pass it to the client to sign, and when before work begins, you know that you're going to get your correct money's worth in terms of signing off. Okay. All right. Now, this all sounds a bit gibberish, I'm sure, and you're thinking to yourself, oh gosh, this sounds very, very overwhelming. But I'm going to assist you now with starting off with the start of understanding your client and where your location is. Well, not your location, what the project is. Okay, so I would actually keep this on hand, and it's very important. I would actually put these dates in your diary because there's also a TAFE policy that if you do not submit on those due dates at that time, it is seen as a first attempt. So you only get 2 attempts. If you do not submit on that time, then you get a second chance. But if your information is incorrect, you're seen as you failed that specific assessment, and that often works against you to say that you will have to repeat that unit in the next semester, which you don't want to do. Okay, so it's very, very thorough. I'm going to be very thorough with you. So it's not like I won't give you the necessary information that's needed to complete this. It would be to your detriment if you do not follow that. Okay. All right. All right, so you'll be finishing around the term break, which is going to be around the end of September. Okay, so that frees up some time with your other units because they're very large and there's a lot of commitments with regards to that. So that will be vital in that sense. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's close that. All right, I'll come back to how to reference. That will be something soon, and then I'll talk about this in terms of accessing the library, how to address Australian standards or get Australian standards when logging into the library, and then accessing the national construction codes. All right, now some of you will be doing units with other lecturers that cover this, and maybe you know where to access this from. That's perfect. For the people that have just started this as their first semester, this might be helpful for you. Okay. And we also look at location essay, which is quite nice in that sense. Alrighty, let's go into understanding a brief. All right, so there I'm just going to show for the external students for the recording. If you go here to your e-learning topic, which is online. Now I've lost my mouse. Come on, mouse. Where are you? Okay, so e-learning there. That kind of breaks down your assessments for you. Assessment 1, you've got 1 week to complete. Assessment 2 is 2 weeks. That's a follow-on from that. It's preparing you to ask questions for your client when you meet with the client. I will be providing a time slot in next week's class for you to sign off. You'll be given a time that you'll be meeting with the client. You're looking at about 15 minutes with the client. So it's not a very long session, but it's enough information to obtain to get all the correct information from the client. Okay. Assessment 2 is all about sustainability. All these are actually questions that you have to answer in your assessment. So it should be quite straightforward in terms of what is your requirements for that. So that's 1 week there. After that, just ignore that term break. I forgot to take that out. Then assessment 3 is 2 weeks, and assessment 4 is 1 week. All right, so you got 2 weeks to do your assessment 3 and then 1 week to do your assessment 4, which is literally just a fix up of assessment 3. So it shouldn't be too taxing on you. The only thing that will change is the name of the actual assessment. It goes from being this one's called the final brief. So that's what the client agrees as well as what you agree on. Okay. All right, so let's get into some interesting stuff now. Right. I'm going to jump right into understanding All right, let me go over here. Assessments and submissions. This is where you'll get the information. So I'm going to start off there first. And you can actually see the dates also put on there as when, sorry, not there. Why are those there? Those are old. Oh no, these are new. Sorry. I'm not going there. Let's go up here. All right, so assessment 1, that's telling you what your requirements are. So this is where you would also submit. So there you would submit your assessment, but here's the information that you need to complete your first assessment. So let's look at that. All right, do you see that it's a Word document? There's information on there that I need from you to fill in, like your details, your student number, etc. And that's what you need to upload for me. All right, so there we go. So if I were to use Terry, he would put his, it would be Terry Barnes in there, and he'd put his signature in there. You don't have to put a physical signature in there. You can just put your initials, okay? I don't need something fancy. The assessor name would be myself. I'll be assessing it, so that's where you'd put my name. And if you go down, it just tells you the resources required to complete this assessment. But this is what we're needing here. All right. So here's your information, or your that will start us off with who your client is and who your project is. So we're looking at the Cumberland Hotel. I will bring up some imagery on that. Your location is in Glanville, all right, so 76 Causeway Road, Glanville. Your client has purchased an old pub, okay. It was also a hotel in its day in Glanville in South Australia, which is heritage listed. There's some clues in this that you are going to pick up, okay. They are hoping to turn this basic pub into a more modern wine cider bar with a designated function area restaurant. Another clue. This is what they're wanting to do with the space. They also run a small cider company and want to be able to store and sell their products from the cellar door. So there's somewhere in this environment that they're going to create to be able to keep some of their stock, all right? So I don't know if any of you have been to the Edinburgh hotel or pub. They have a separate cellar area which has wine to sell, but this is going to be for cider, okay? They do have a wine bar, so you could actually put maybe cider with the bottled wine. But basically, that's their main kind of concern there. They'll need to employ 3 or more full-time staff. This will be run front of house or cellar door bar sales, a chef and kitchen staff, as well as function manager. They'll need to extend the footprint of the original pub to allow for the outdoor decked area, some extra storage and function rooms or restaurants, as well as renovations to the existing toilet facilities. Another clue there, all right? They've also thought about using part of the space dedicated to promoting local artists. You'll see that this area here, due to its zone, and that's what I'm going to show you on how to find out where it's zoned to, all right? As you know, that Adelaide has different council zones, all right? So I live under the Mitcham Council, all right? So that's my area. You might live under the Adelaide Council or the Marion Council. So we're going to try and find out what area this hotel falls under, because there is different rules and regulations, okay, for each council. Now, talking about artists, if you look up where the zone is, you can actually see all this location. You can see it's very up and coming with a lot of like quite an artistic environment, a lot of interesting things happening there. So they're trying to be a forefront with thinking forward in terms of making sure that they with it in promoting the that space with artists. And that could also be musicians, sorry, can't say the word there. The space could also be used by bands, so there we go. looking to play acoustic sets. So we're not looking at maybe very loud music, because you also got to consider the residents in that area. Okay, so that's quite important there to finalize. The clients are quite into sustainable concepts, so that's one of your clues with regards to addressing assignment or assessment 2, because we're going to be addressing some information there with sustainability for the clients. But they have never really had a great understanding of what can be done. Now, sustainability, all right, the word sustainability or green architecture or green spaces, a lot of people out there, not in our industry, but a lot of people out there will come across this word and say, yep, we want to be this because everyone else is doing this. So sometimes they don't know what's actually the information involved, or not information, what actually is involved and the cost involved. They just think it's going to save them lots of money. Yes, in the interim and a long interim, it will, but sometimes sustainability can also be costly. Okay, so we just need to keep that keep that in consideration. They like contemporary buildings, but also like the idea of green workspaces. So they would like to be part of a driving force behind the design. All right, so it's heritage listed as mentioned, but they want a contemporary feel. So it's almost like merging old with new. Okay, so we got to just keep that in mind. The structure has been assessed by a local engineer and seems to be sound. They will need to have the roof looked at, and there's some watermarks on the ceiling that are a bit suspicious. Some of the points to consider, and I'll just move that up so that we can make sure we read all that. Some of the points to consider, there would be, there is limited parking, and I'll bring up a site to show you that. There's not sufficient storage. It's quite dated, this environment, and you'll see I've got some photographs to show you. There's no disability body access ramp. So in other words, if someone's in a wheelchair, how do they access this environment from an internal perspective or getting into the building? Very important, toilet facilities. They're old, they're not sufficient. It also depends on the number of people that they're wanting in this environment to be housed, especially if they're having different areas happening at the same time. Like if the bands are playing and there's people having food, and there's also people then in the new wine bar area, how many people is this place going to hold, and can the toilet facilities that are there be able to, address that amount of people? You don't want blockage in toilets, so you need to know that the number of toilets is actually according to Australian standards for the amount of people in that environment. Very limited heating and cooling because it's an old building. There's a lot of heat loss in that environment. The new client has mentioned that it feels cold in winter and very hot in summer. The main pub area has timber floors covered in carpet. Now that's a very pub-like environment, old English pub. They had the carpets down because the whole idea was to actually absorb the noise in that environment, as well as if there was a mess, it could just be easily to be covered up or soaked up or something like that. Nowadays, we've got to kind of think of hygiene, work health and safety issues, etc. Okay. This is interesting. Existing trees on site. Why would the client mention existing trees on site? Sometimes they could actually be a problem. Roots, the coverage, the heights, how close they are to the building, to maybe the parameter of the build, or to the walkway. So someone would have to come in to assess that and look at those trees to make sure that could they be taken down? Are they indigenous? Are they not? Would it be beneficial for your design eventually to incorporate those trees somehow? So these are the things that the client has mentioned. Now, this wouldn't necessarily be given to you like this. How do you think this kind of conversation would start? Could anyone think of all right, Doug, I'll start with you because I know.
On your initial meeting of the client, you'd be you'd be asking probing questions.
Yep.
You'd possibly necessarily go scout the site first, so you've got some idea for that meeting, and find out, what you think about it, not necessarily having an opinion, but just what you think, so you know the questions that you're going to need to ask regarding to those things that you can see straight away that are outstanding aspects.
Yep.
Is the tree a significant tree?
Yeah.
For instance, it might be, something that's, metres high and is a local thing that may have to stay regardless of what you want to do.
True.
So, the only way you'll know that is if you visit the site.
Okay.
Then you can say, well, okay, I've got some idea, I need to ask points to gain that.
Yeah.
Or you could draft that in a starting letter, maybe.
Starting letter, that's a good idea. So I'm going to take you one step before that. That is good. So before this information gets relayed, it would be in terms of a meet and greet, or maybe someone has, so if I'm the client and you are the designer, and say for instance we are at a function and Terry introduces, because Terry knows me, and says to you, I know that you are wanting to change your hotel. This is a good way to introduce the two so that they can start talking. Then I tell Doug all this information quickly about the project.
Break the ice first.
Say again?
Break the ice first.
Yes.
Some way.
Yes.
Or
Exactly. Breaking the ice.
Just walk up and go, hey, I'm on it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how the initial information gets addressed. This would be in terms of either I hear that Doug is a really good designer and building designer, and I email him, or I pick up the phone and I make that initial contact with him. So this information here would not be specifically given to you like that in written down, all right? It would be you to write that information down, because it's information that is passed normally verbally. It's, as you said, so your name again? Karen. So it would be verbal conversation. And so this is how you would be able to, as designers, get out there to kind of really try and sell yourself, or try and get yourself out there to know about what's happening in the industry, so that people like the owner of this hotel can approach you and mention this and say, oh my gosh, I've got this hotel. I hear that you are a building designer and I want to, do you mind if I give you a call, say, on Thursday, and I can just quickly chat to you about this? Then you'll say, yeah, sure, I'm just busy at this time, but give me your number, I'll give you a ring, and we can make it for 12:30. Then it's a phone call conversation, or it could be an initial meet and greet, or it could even be in an environment where it's a mutual, even over someone's house. It could be like wherever, or it could be at a function. Okay, so do you understand how this information is not the brief? It's just sometimes interior designers get it confused, because this is normally seen as a client brief, and that's what my background is in interior architecture. So with interior architecture, this would be seen as what the client is relaying to you as the designer, and that's sometimes termed as the client brief. But in this part of the equation for building design as a diploma, this is actually seen as just project information. So don't get confused, because ultimately we want to get to the final stage of identifying the client brief. Okay, so I'm just making sure that you understand that. This is project information. Okay, so yes, Doug, you would then get this information, you would write it down, and then it's up to you to say, I would like to come to your site to visit and just take some photographs, etc., have a look at it. Or you could actually prevent that time wasting and get the client to supply some photographs of their environment, so that it's not costing you money. Okay, in that sense, the client can take a few snapshots of the environment, and this is where your assignment 1 comes in, where you start researching the location and you pick up certain points from the conversation of the project information that is provided, such as he wants to do changes to the existing hotel. He's worried about the parking. He's worried about the toilets. He's worried about the trees. Does that make sense? Those are key points. Then you think to yourself, where can I be able to find this information? Well, then we'll go further into it and look at Location SA. Let's look at the building codes, the National Construction Codes, look at Australian standards. Those are going to be your three main areas to find information that can assist your client further, so that when you actually do meet with the client, and that's normally on premises. In this environment, it's a bit difficult because you don't want us all to go off to the poor clients at the Cumberland Hotel and each have a chat with them. So we are going to pretend that we are meeting at the Cumberland Hotel, and it's going to be an environment here. Does that make sense? And someone's going to act as the owner of the Cumberland Hotel, and then from there they are going to then ask, or you're going to ask them questions and say, this is what I found out from the information you provided on the phone or when I met initially with you. These are being flagged, and I'm just a bit worried about this, or what if we think of changing this or putting a ramp in here or fixing the toilets? And the client will probably be quite happy with that. Okay, do you see how this is flowing? Do you see how this is working from assignment 1A to assignment 1B? 1A is doing the research now of this information. There's a lot of clues in here. And then with 1B, it's your actual meeting with the client. Okay. All right. All right, so I'll get this to you. I mean, what is the time now? 10:50. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of a rest. I think I've been chewing your ear off here. So assessment requirements. Towards the end of the class today, we'll be dissecting this for you. All right? So this is what your assessment is going to be on in terms of helping you find the correct information of answering these questions. They're requirements, but sometimes I refer to them as questions, so just bear with me because I'm old school. I still say lecturers, teachers, requirements, questions, so bear with me, okay? All right, so we'll be dissecting those. So let's have a break. It is now 10:51. Let's come back. Let's give a 10-minute break. Let's start at about 11 again. All right. Is that okay? Perfect. Oh, yes, recording. That's a good idea. Let's see here.